So for today's podcast, we have a very special guest who's very close to home, and some of you may recognise from his experience in the industry and perhaps on social media.
Welcome, Martin. It's nice to have you here. So just a quick one for the listeners. Can you tell us who you are and where you come from and a bit about you, if possible?
I can indeed. Hi, Phoebe. Hi, Nathan. So I'm Martin Stemp. I'm the... it's like you're interviewing me. This is strange. I remember interviewing you not too long ago. I'm the managing director and the owner of Aqua. Where do I come from? How far back do you want me to go? I was born in Kent and then moved to Brighton when I was very small, and grew up there, and then fell in love with the underwater world on holidays in the Mediterranean when I was a kid, as you do, chasing little fishes when you're 10 years old with your snorkel and mask on. I studied at Bangor University, marine biology, oceanography, and then at Plymouth, doing my masters in environmental monitoring, and through various twists and turns found myself about 10 years after graduating joining Aqua, and after a couple more years acquired the business from the founders, and then have sort of been growing it to where we are today. So
excellent. So you meant some of those twists and turns. I'm interested. How did you go from training as a marine scientist and then transitioning into a director, and then obviously managing director and owning Aqua?
How long have you got? So I guess after I graduated, I did my master's. Well, actually, after I graduated my bachelor's from Bangor, I then worked as a chef for a year before doing my master's, and that was fun and different. And I was thinking about this before our podcast today. So when was I first managing a team? And the first time I was managing a team was at school when I was in sports. I was like captain and then ended up being coach and captain of our basketball team at college. But then when I was chefing, I was also managing a team then. That was straight after my bachelor's. Obviously different sector, cooking Mexican food for hungry punters, but it was good fun. After graduating, in answer to your question, after graduating from my masters in Plymouth, I then actually didn't start working in marine. I started working in environmental consulting. Mm-hmm. So in London, for a small environmental consultancy, mostly doing sort of built environment and air quality work. That was great fun and a good graduate job, no experience necessary, all training provided kind of gig. And then they looked after me. It was a good company. And so I stayed there a full 5 years, but then decided to orient my career back towards kind of marine science rather than kind of in environmental, kind of built environment stuff. So I took a bit of time out, and I was fortunate enough to find a position at the Natural History Museum back in 2010. Actually early in that 2009, running a sort of a commercial enterprise within the Natural History Museum, but using the museum's marine biologists and taxonomists and other scientists to carry out consulting work, but for sort of marine science end users or ocean tech end users. So that was kind of an interesting way for me to link my kind of environmental consultancy, so kind of consulting background with a commercial sort of hat on, but to my interest in kind of marine science and marine technology, and kind of joining the two. So that was my it took a few years. I think I was about 30 when I finally found that role, but that was the time that I finally managed to kind of pull the pieces together and start working in a sort of commercial role, but with scientists and oceanographers and marine biologists. So yeah, that was quite an experience and quite a place to work as well. So after then I did a couple of years at the Natural History Museum and left for various reasons, changing personal circumstances and then worked in the charitable sector briefly, and for a DEFRA-funded organisation doing sort of, again, environmental sort of research and submarine stuff, but not really. And but that was a relatively temporary role. And then, as I said, I then found Aqua as employee number 6 when I joined. So.
Employee number 6. Are we on 14 now?
15.
15? Oh yeah, Corey. We've just recently had an apprentice join us. So
we have, yeah.
Number 15.
Yeah. Numbers are growing. It's It's interesting. Obviously, what we were number 11 and 12 or 12 and 13.
12 and 13, I think.
Yeah, it was 13 because 13 is my lucky number, and I was like,
Lovely. There you go.
So yeah, as you mentioned, you've obviously been involved in lots and lots of different job roles. So what would you say was maybe a career highlight for you, apart from maybe the obvious?
Gosh, yeah, I'm loving today and now and what we're doing at the moment, and maybe a highlight's still to come. I've enjoyed all of the roles I've had. I mean, I try and have quite a positive outlook on most things in life, and I've taken a lot from everything I did, and continue to do. So, yeah, I don't know. I'm having a lot of fun now, and it's been great watching the team growth over the last few years. You know, we've grown quite significantly in relatively recent years, and that's been, that's I don't know if this is legit, but that's certainly been a highlight for me. You know, I'm having more fun now than ever before. So
that's great to hear.
Yeah.
So we'll
take
something
personal
right.
credit for that.
By all means.
So obviously, RS Aqua and obviously yourself, you've done a lot of travelling. We've got a lot of partners around the world that we've been able to meet and collaborate with. Is there any particular area or trip maybe in particular that has stood out for you as one of your favourites, or somewhere you've really got a good experience from?
Work trips. I've been privileged to travel quite a lot, not so much in the last 18 months, but for obvious reasons with COVID, but for the standing out, well, going to a channel partner conference or summit, as I believe it was called at the time, for liquid robotics in Koh Samui in Thailand was pretty fun. They worked us hard though. There wasn't much. I mean, yes, the evening receptions were held on beaches with in bare feet, but they worked us hard in the days. We had to earn our lunch that day. So I mean that was great. That was fun. But as I said, I've travelled a lot. I mean, I regularly and frequently probably have travelled in the last few years to Eastern Canada more than any other area, partly because of so many of our partner companies who are based in Nova Scotia and now in Newfoundland as well. And I love visiting Nova Scotia, certainly in the summer more than the winter. The winter can be fun too, but having very nearly been stuck there on more than one occasion because of snowstorms, it's the summer's a fun place to visit. It's a fun time to visit. So yeah, I mean that area certainly stands out for me. But as I said, I've also travelled a fair amount in the UK, and I think one of my last trips before COVID was going to a conference in Hull, and I'd never been to Hull before. And some of my friends went to Hull University for various reasons. I'd never been there, and went there with not expecting heard of Hull, sounded like a nice town. Nice city, and loved it. And the old town was beautiful, like the maritime heritage, the amount of some of these gorgeous old pubs and the Sea Life Centre there. I was really, really surprised by how much I enjoyed going to Hull, which I hadn't expected to say, but I loved it. So it's not all kind of sandy beaches and Koh Samui.
That's interesting, because we recently went to the Ocean Symposium in Hastings, and I personally have never been to Hastings, and we didn't know what to expect when going. Obviously, the Battle of in 1066, but that's all I basically knew. And we rocked up, and it has a lot of similarities to Southsea in Portsmouth. We both really enjoyed it and said we'd definitely go back there. And it's, had it not been for something we were going there for work, we'd never have known that. So it was quite nice being able to get to places like that.
And I think that's something as well that, as someone who lives in the UK, it's what we've taken away from COVID as well, is where we couldn't go overseas travel. The holidays that people have had in the UK, I think we've all found a new love. Like the pictures, so Martin, you went on holiday to Scotland this summer, and the pictures you sent from that were just amazing. And same, I went on holiday to Winchester, which, for those of you who don't know, we're just outside of Portsmouth. Winchester's about 40 minutes from us, and I would never have normally gone there, but it was so nice. We stayed in a tree house, and I think we've all found a new love for the UK.
Absolutely, that's been a benefit, I think, for a lot of people, is discovering places a bit closer to home. And West of Scotland was pretty special. I spent a lot of time there as a kid, and with some family in sort of on the Kintyre Peninsula, sort of a distant branch of the family who still have some heritage there. So yeah, I was lucky enough. We were blessed with really amazing weather, which I don't remember from a kid. I remember it raining a lot. But yeah, it's a pretty special time there. So.
It's certainly up the amount of people driving vans on the road these days that have been converted.
It does.
You had to drop your van in there, didn't you?
Had to.
Can't wait to see your new van.
Well, it's outside. Just haven't done anything to it yet.
Yeah.
Anyway. So one thing I definitely wanted to ask you, because I've always found it quite interesting, is RS Aqua. We're obviously quite a young and quite a diverse team, and I know personally from coming out of uni and trying to find a job, employers seem to want 2-3 years of experience, but you sort of took a bit of a chance definitely on me and on Nathan and the newer employees. So what sort of makes you go for not younger people only, but people straight out of uni and taking a chance on them?
That's a good question. I suppose. I mean, we are a reasonably young team. I mean, but we're pretty diverse across. Regardless of how you measure it. So, we do have people with 20, 30 plus years experience on the team, and as you said, I mean, you two were straight from masters, more or less, but not quite. I mean, I don't know. I guess for me, it's we've recruited more recently based on. Yes, it's really important for us to have really credible, high level marine or ocean science qualifications, academic credentials, or having studied or worked in that environment for some time. But it's also a lot of what we do. Just really, we need people that are excited about the area we work in, are passionate for various reasons about the science, about the research side, about the industrial applications of technology, and there's no necessarily one kind of mould that fits the perfect person to work at RS Aqua. So yeah, as you mentioned, we have we've got a new apprentice who was born in the 2000s, which makes me feel really old. A lot of people born in the 90s, but similarly people from the 80s, 70s, 60s, and further. So I don't know. I don't know how to answer that question other than we're always looking for enthusiastic, bright, ambitious people to work for RS Aqua, and people that we enjoy being around. I've always wanted to come to work and really enjoy being at work and enjoy spending time with people in the building or on Teams virtually more and more these days. But I've always thought that's important, and I've worked in. I've had the privilege of working in a number of organisations, large and small, over the years, and have always found friends and close kind of associates. But there's not always been a positive sort of culture. There's sometimes there's been that's not been managed as well, or kind of we've not always had directors or managers kind of putting their arms around people and just trying to make sure that people have a positive experience with teams that I actually want to spend some time with. So that's been very important for me at RS Aqua as we've grown, is to try and have that positive culture kind of instilled throughout the organisation. Have good people, positive people that I would happily have a drink with anyone on site. If you can't go and have a beer with that person, then maybe they should look somewhere else. So obviously it doesn't have to be a beer, it can happily be orange juice or soda water, no alcohol required. But that's kind of how I address it anyway.
Interesting. So we've touched on holidays and a small team that's been growing over the last couple of years, and I'm going to mention the C word because enough of it gets bounced around these days, but how's it been managing both a smallish company and a young family during the last 18 months?
Well, I don't manage the family on my own, that helps. It's been, in many ways the last 18 months has been great. It's been memorable, it's been different, it's brought a lot of things into focus. So it's for me, it's being flexible in terms of my, personally, in terms of my time, is more important than ever. and I am still at home several days each week, typically, and obviously that was pretty much full time at home for a while in the early days of COVID. But it's I kind of recognise that I've never been a strict kind of 9 to 5 person anyway. It's not to say that I'm not always equating that with doing like crazy amount of hours or something in the week, but having flexibility has been important for me, and it's been a really important part of having that kind of family, home, life, work kind of balance. So being particularly when the kids were homeschooling, they're back at school now, thankfully, but thankfully for them, I think they're going a bit mad being at home 7 days a week indefinitely. But having when they were at home and for homeschool, having the ability for me to take like a 2-hour lunch sometimes if it meant the sun's shining and it made sense to go and get some fresh air or go for a walk. We're fortunate enough to live in a sort of a small village in the South Downs, and we've got access to to walks and rivers and forests and all the rest of it within a relatively short walk from our house. So having the flexibility to do that, I kind of recognise with the way I work is that I don't always I kind of have highs and lows of my energy levels over the day as well. So at times, I'm completely fine with this. I can switch off and have a longer break, or have a break, when the kids are back from school, or help them with their homeschool, or help them with their homework, and then sort of get back to work a bit later on if I need to. Mm-hmm. And I don't do that every day, but needs must at times. So having kind of flexibility in the working days has been kind of important for me, and the kids are excited about what we do as well. They're both budding kind of marine scientists, hopefully in the making. So
it's good to hear.
So that helps. It's good to hear. They've got no other options, frankly.
I think that was something as well, was just adjusting to life at home all the time. I know I struggled to remember to take breaks and to move away from the computer, and then I know that Phoebe within the company did the same thing, and it was hard. But now it's just.
It's almost second nature, isn't it?
Yeah.
So when we first adjusted, I heeded your advice and tried to treat working at home as much as possible as working in the office. So I still to this day, if I'm working from home, I'll do a 10-15 minute walk around my estate or just up to the wood and back, just to get my mind, okay, I've walked to work now, even though I don't live within walking distance anymore, but for me it gets the mind going.
Absolutely.
So trying to keep those kind of traditions going, I think is going to be important for me personally, but certainly a lot of other people that do the same. Yeah,
I think that's really important. And quite a few years ago, about 10, 12 years ago, I worked from home for about a year and a half for a large company, and some of the advice they gave us was silly things. It was like that, like walk to work, even if it's going around the block. Get dressed,
exactly.
Have a shower, don't just sort of rock up in your PJs and think you can sort of actually catch up on a few emails. You've got to get your head right, and some of those cues like walking to work, doing some exercise, taking breaks. It's important to do that. So, but yeah. So.
Mm-hmm. So what do you think, as a technological background that we come from with the company, what do you think in the past few years has been the most influential technology that's come out or been developed?
God, there's so many. I don't know. I think, bringing it back to our kind of experience within Aqua, because the sector's so rich and broad, and there's so many amazingly kind of innovative and developments happening daily across the sector, and a huge amount of engineering and R&D going on constantly in so many businesses. Linking it back to our experience at Aqua over recent years. For me, for me personally, what was really fun a few years ago is the technology I was quite involved with, which was the wave glider, unmanned surface vehicle, and manufactured by Liquid Robotics. And back when Liquid Robotics was an independent business, it was acquired by a large defence company a few years ago. But when it was in the early days of, I guess, in 2013, 14 sort of time, maybe a bit beyond then. Of working with the wave glider, it was truly novel at the time. There was very few robotic and autonomous platforms available at the time. There was AUVs and early days of gliders, etc. But before surface vehicles were really as ubiquitous as they are now, that was really exciting, kind of working closely with Liquid Robotics for that time. And we were going to visiting with customers, presenting at conferences, presenting at trade shows, working on unique projects with large research institutions in the UK and private businesses too, to use the Wave Glider and really identify like what the use case was, how when did it make sense to use surface vehicles, what was the legal framework for using autonomous or unmanned vehicles at the time when it was still pretty novel in the industry. That was an exciting time, and I think the work that Liquid Robotics did in the early days kind of paved the way for many other unmanned platforms kind of coming through. So that was pretty exciting. Yeah.
And having seen Ocean Business this year, obviously we're now aware of just how many unmanned platforms, both surface and
there's a few. There's a few now. It's funny at Ocean Business we were talking about that a few years ago that maybe when you were studying, I know you were in Southampton, Phoebe, that there would have been 2, 3. AUVs, gliders, maybe an ROV or 2 in the corners as well, and now you can sort of add a 0 or 2 to that number really now. So
absolutely.
Yeah, there were loads bobbing about in the is it the marina, the dockyard,
dockside,
yeah,
absolutely,
big and small.
Yeah.
RS Aqua, we're as a team, we're very environmentally conscious and we do our bit as much as possible. Beach cleans, donated to local charities. What do you think is the next step, or what more can be done to help improve the environmental quality of coastal areas?
Gosh, that's a big question. What can be done? I tell you what I'm a fan of is some of the restorative projects that I've learnt about in recent years. So restoring natural environments, and I think generally the way I view the world, it's and from RS Aqua perspective, we work very closely with research organisations, with conservation agencies, but also commercial and industrial users of the sort of ocean space as well. So by restorative projects, I mean projects that will be restoring like sea kelp forests in the English Channel, or looking at reintroducing native oyster populations in Chichester and I think off Hayling, and so these projects that aim to return or restore natural or environments to close to kind of pristine in certain areas, but still recognise that industrial use and recreational use of the sea and the coast will always will continue as long as us humans are here. So I'm a big fan of those projects, and I think they do change. They're complex, they're large projects, they involve a lot of different stakeholders of marine and coastal zones, but they can have quite powerful impacts in terms of ecology and then water quality and just local enjoyment of these areas. So I'm a fan of those kind of projects. I like to support them whenever I can. So.
And hopefully they can continue unhindered. I'm sure you've seen a lot of issue at the moment, certainly the last couple of weeks, where MPs have been voting for or against waste. Something I'm quite passionate about is wastewater allowances and raw sewage effluent into the water.
Sure.
It's certainly a big issue around here at the moment with Langston Harbour.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of unsavoury things washing up. So let's hope that the people that need to be voting, or the people that need to be in the driving seat, actually do the right thing.
Sure. I hope so. And it's that's a difficult one. It's obviously it's a very regulated environment, but then the level of regulation depends on local governmental funding, kind of all sorts of other elements as well. So it's for sure part of the mix, but
I think it's something that's definitely, especially in this area as well, there's a lot of local engagement. So we went to an event, obviously you said in Hastings, and that's in Sussex, and they've got the Sussex Wildlife Trust, and also Hampshire and Isle of Wight Wildlife Trust. There's so much going on at the moment, and raising local awareness that hopefully people the public, the general public, are going to be more and more aware of what's going on, and we'll start seeing some more changes. But
absolutely,
we can hope. So I guess one question we wanted to know is, in the next, say, 5 to 10 years, what is something you hope to accomplish or achieve, or?
Okay. Well, there's a few. Let me think. So, personally, we had I really enjoyed our sailing trip a few weeks ago. We took the whole company, we shut the doors for a day and took everyone out sailing on a couple of nice 40-foot yachts just in the Solent, just for a day trip, and that was fun. So I'd quite like to learn to sail at some point in the future properly. I think when I have time and money and availability to invest in those kind of things. Maybe sailing, maybe power boating though. So the electrical engine, obviously, not something a bit more sustainable. But that's pretty high on my radar. I was learning to wakeboard before COVID, and then that wiped that out, and I've not done it since. So being towed off the back of a boat is fun, but maybe being in the driving seat as well would be something that I think I'd quite like to do. And then professionally, I don't know. There's a few things on the horizon for us. It's exciting looking at the R&D work that we're doing, and some of the innovations, some of the new technologies that we're planning to bring out that in Aqua's own name and before too long. So that's pretty exciting too. So.
Excellent.
How about you two? You ask a lot of questions.
Oh, you're turning the tables. Oh, good question. Nathan?
Well deferred.
Well, personally, I want to get the van sorted, obviously.
Van sorted, absolutely.
What about the van? 5 to 10 years, I don't know. I'd like to get back on the travel wagon. Obviously, the van is great, but there's a lot of places I would like to go and see before life catches up. And then personally, I don't know, personal development, there's a few things I'd like to look into, but at the moment I'm very happy with where we are and where I'm going within the company and professionally, so I hope the current plans continue as they're going.
I guess for myself, just before lockdown I was supposed to be going and doing some shark tagging out in South Africa, and it all got put on hold, and then I got this job. I'd like to, it's only for a few weeks or so, maybe pop back over to South Africa, to head over there and do a bit of the shark tracking work, as it's something that I'm involved with quite a lot here at Aqua as well, so that'd be really interesting as a personal thing, and I suppose work thing.
Yeah.
But in the company, or work related wise, I'd like to be doing a little bit more research and hopefully moving towards that sort of thing and being involved in some R&D type projects as well. But yeah, I'm quite happy with what we're doing at the moment.
I guess I think we're fortunate. We collectively are working in sort of marine science and ocean tech generally, like most people in the sector, sort of link their personal interests and their professional interests together, and not everyone is fortunate enough to be able to do that. So it's I think we're lucky to be able to. Well, I think I'm lucky anyway, and without putting words in other people's mouths, to be able to kind of combine like personal ambitions with professional ones and find a way to kind of weave them together, which, as I said, is in other warps of life isn't always. It sometimes can be a bit more separation, but
indeed.
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, we always like to round out our podcast guest sections with a few light-hearted questions, shall we say. So the first one, if you were stuck on a desert island, or a deserted island, be what it is, mate, what 3 items would you take with you?
Oh, I don't know. I haven't thought about that before. Maybe. Are they allowed to be? Do they have to be objects?
It could be anything.
Are there any rules? Okay.
Within reason.
Within reason. My house. Okay, something practical. So if I was on a deserted island, something like it's practical, but I would have fun with it, like a multi-tool or something, so I can like whittle bits of wood and build shelters, and and do that kind of thing. So a multi-tool. What else? Can I take my family? Do they count as an object? Probably not. Guys, okay, my favourite child. I won't tell you which one, but I'll take my favourite child.
I was going to say we can keep people exempt for this and assume they will be with you, but
okay. Maybe I'm a bit lazy. Maybe like a box of matches or something, just to light fires. That'll be fun. So get back to nature.
It's quite practical, that, Martin.
Yeah,
It's quite practical.
Yeah.
Yeah. I did. What were yours, Phoebe? Cheese and chocolate, wasn't
Cheese, chocolate, and my cat.
And your cat.
yeah.
Entertainment, I suppose.
Entertainment, absolutely.
Maybe some red wine too. That would be
and
nice.
food, you know. So, red wine.
All the nutritional need. So, if you were stranded in the water somewhere,
Right.
what is an animal you would like to see, and what animal would you not like to see?
Gosh. Okay. What, like bobbing around, sort of like overboard?
Just approaching you, and you're stranded there.
An animal I would like to see. Something I could like grab onto. I don't know what can swim that's big enough to carry me. An elephant. There you go.
Right. Okay.
That'd be good. And would not like to see. I think the only animals that have slightly freaked me out when I've been diving in the past has been seeing a lone barracuda in a kind of enclosed space. That was pretty terrifying. I've seen shoals of barracuda as well, but that was less terrifying in kind of open water. But a lone barracuda eyeballing me when I was approaching it, that was pretty terrifying. So if I could avoid that kind of situation, or small sea snakes, banded sea snakes.
Oh, yeah. That's a very good answer.
But the elephant, there's an elephant there, fine, bring it on.
Yeah, I don't know if that's what's going to happen ever.
Never know.
Yeah, maybe a dead elephant or something.
Yeah, scuba diving off of the edge of Kenya and see one just floating by that's got lost.
Yeah.
I'm sure elephants can swim. I mean, maybe just short distances, but let's assume that body of water is just a small pond, basically.
And then, final question, it's always an interesting one, this. What's an item of technology, marine tech or just anything, that you wish had never been invented?
Oh, gosh. I don't know. I think maybe the game Minecraft, and then my children's education would be a bit more on track than it is, probably. That's been a bit of a distraction for the little ones recently. Yeah, that'll do. Minecraft can chuff off.
Fair enough.
Did you get a Nintendo Switch?
We did get a Nintendo Switch.
Oh yeah, you've been playing Mario Kart.
Yeah. We did get one for Christmas for the kids. So yeah, that's I'm happy with that for the time being.
They can stay.
That can stay for now. That can stay.
Well, thanks, Martin. It's
no
been
worries.
Great to have you.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you very much for coming on.
Not at all. Anytime.
And I'm sure we'll see you in the next 5 minutes.
You probably will. We'll go for a coffee in my office. Nice. All right. Thanks, guys.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Bye.
Cheers. Bye bye.